Our first story tonight is based on what is happening in the UK, but it's actually not just about the UK. You see, every country, especially the Five Eyes nations, is accelerating the push towards online age verification, or more palatably known as age assurance. We've been talking to you about this extensively over the past week, and it looks like we're going to need to talk about it a lot more because it's right at our doorstep. Before we tell you what's happening in the UK, we want to show you a tweet from Republican Congresswoman Mary Miller of Illinois. I tweeted about this yesterday. She says children should never have access to adult content online. This is something everyone should agree on, yet many sites refuse to enforce strong age verification. It's time to pass the Screen Act and protect our most innocent. Now, I've retweeted this and said, hey, America, this is carbon copy rhetoric from Australia and the UK, which is an enforceable online identification linked to your online activity, eventually leading to a social credit system. I've been warning about this for months. Why are Republicans pushing this? Let me explain that tweet. The Screen Act, which Rep. Mary Miller is talking about there, is the Shielding Children's Retinas from Egregious Exposure on the Net Act. It is a proposed piece of legislation which, on the surface, is aimed at protecting minors from accessing pornography online by requiring age verification on commercial pornography websites. The bill, introduced in the 119th Congress, which would mandate these sites use technology rather than just age attestation to verify users are not minors. The problem, as with all legislation we've seen of late across the West aimed at protecting minors, is that it has a broader scope that could affect other websites. The Act defines a covered platform as any entity that, in the regular course of its trade or business, creates, hosts, or makes available content that is deemed harmful to minors. So we want to take you to an example from Australia. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who has admitted that he would like to control what his critics say online, essentially, along with many Australian politicians last year, advocated for and passed a social media age ban. It comes into effect in December of 2025. Initially, this was about keeping children safe on the internet, we were told. They're being bullied, so we have to protect them, they said. Well, here's what it's evolved into, and this is just one of many clips, but take a listen to this.
The other thing that we need to do, and this is something that I'm proud of and has bipartisan support, one of the reasons why the social media ban is important is that young people at a very young age, when they're developing, are exposed to some pretty hateful stuff out there. The rise of misogyny.
Now, while we can't imagine any Republicans would be complaining about misogyny, we certainly have heard them talking about hate speech, which is not a real thing. Hate speech is simply speech that one person or a group of people don't like or take offense to. And even if it were a real thing, it would be protected by the First Amendment. Nonetheless, there are currently countless bills being proposed in the United States centered around silencing and punishing, even to the point of criminalization, quote-unquote, hate speech. Now, what we can tell you with certainty is how this has played out in the UK and Australia. Initially, they talk about protecting kids. They talk about hate speech. They say we need stricter measures to protect the children and protect the masses from hate speech. And then they eventually reveal the true nature of these efforts, which is silencing speech they don't like, every adult needing to either link their government ID or be age assured by big tech at all times while using the internet, and eventually linking the two, meaning your opinions, your conduct, and even things you view, is linked to your digital profile. And considering they want to implement an internet of everything, this will mean even when not actively utilizing a device. Maybe we can talk about that rabbit hole on a separate broadcast. We've spoken to you many times about the KOSA legislation, the Kids Online Safety Act in the US, which was previously backed by Elon Musk. We don't know what his position on this is as of now, but the KOSA legislation is very eerily similar to the Australian social media age ban. So keeping all of this in mind, we want to show you how this is now progressing in the UK. And while you're listening to this, just think about how something like this could very easily develop in the United States next. This is from The Observer. It says, "This is serious. Starmer orders move toward digital ID system." The scheme aims to tackle illegal immigration and crime, despite past concern over civil liberties. The Prime Minister is seriously considering introducing a universal digital ID system as a way of tackling illegal immigration and improving the delivery of public services. We just heard something very similar about improving public services and AI being involved in all of that, and AI healthcare just last week in the United States. Cabinet ministers say Keir Starmer has become increasingly convinced of the need to harness the power of technology to drive Whitehall efficiency, bear down on fraud, and transform the relationship between citizens and the state. Downing Street is now considering in detail the workability of a unique digital identifier for all residents that could be used to check an individual's right to live and work in Britain, as well as provide access to welfare, healthcare, or housing. One senior minister said Starmer had ordered a comprehensive and expansive look at the role technology can play in government, including digital ID. Keir is leading on it, they said. This is a serious piece of work. After a year in government, it is clear that technology is underpinning everything. Digital ID is foundational. Things are moving forward. And though no announcement is expected imminently, a number 10 source said any hurdles were practical, not philosophical, particularly around ensuring that elderly people or those without mobile phones are not excluded. The PM's advisors believe an ID system could reduce friction between the public and the state, building on the success of the NHS app, which was widely adopted during the pandemic, allowing patients to book appointments, order prescriptions, and see test results. There would be no requirement to carry a physical card. Oh my gosh! Wow, how convenient. We don't have to carry a physical card anymore, everyone. The government is going to implement a digital verification system that links your online conduct, your speech, your purchases, interests, your travel, banking, bill payments, mortgage payments, insurance, credit score, and absolutely every single aspect of our lives. What could possibly go wrong? Surely they would never use this technology to limit ammunition purchases, for example, like the World Economic Forum and the World Bank have spoken about. Surely they would never use all of this linked technology to debank individuals protesting like they did in Canada and to some J6s. Surely this won't turn into a weapon against dissent like every other piece of legislation has over the past several years. This, paired with the expansion of AI in all facets of government across every nation, spells an absolute technocratic disaster, and one many of us warned COVID would be used to introduce. And it was. The reality is, the technocratic agenda has not gone anywhere. In fact, it has intensified, and we are one of the few screaming from the rooftops to warn people worldwide. You won't hear this on the MSM, and there's a reason for it. We'll be expanding more on this later in the broadcast. Stick around. In his